It's a sad moment when a movement born out of commitment to end systemic racism and police brutality has come to be vilified as violent, destructive, and unlawful, when the overwhelming majority of the Black Lives Matter marches have been peaceful and nonviolent. Civil rights icon and Martin Luther King mentor, the Reverend James Lawson, and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles co-founder, Dr. Melina Abdullah, sat down with us recently to discuss the status of the streets and the struggle.
History looks back. Well, it's looking back now, but it mostly identifies Charlottesville as a consequence of a very violent society, of violence that has 300 or 400 years of practice and community life. So the mistreatment of Indian, the decimation, the hanging of women as witches, these things we have never repudiated, and we have never sought, therefore, to put in place a different way of living.
Anyone who has been around Black Lives Matter knows that the core of Black Lives Matter is really a spiritual movement, right? That the struggle for justice for our people is a sacred duty, and much of the work is grounded in spiritual practice. We cannot expect to transform the world without the presence of the Creator, without calling on our mightiest warrior ancestors to help us align with the struggle for Black freedom that goes back generations.
Hold that name in your mind, and we're all gonna say the name of our own ancestors together. 1, 2, 3. Ashe.
When we come out, oftentimes we are standing on the spilled blood of our people. And to think that the work doesn't have a spiritual component is to be hugely naive. So we always ground ourselves with the pouring of libation. We engage in prayer, and we do a lot of affirmation work. Remembering that this is a long and sometimes very difficult and challenging struggle, but our victory is ensured as long as we're committed to that struggle. White supremacist terrorism is not the group of folks we're trying to appeal to. So anyone who is casting the calling for the valuation of Black life as an evil thing is problematic themselves. And so, you know, that's other people's work to try to convert or transform those folks. That's not the group that we're engaging in. And so, you know, we believe in, when we say Black Lives Matter, it's a rallying cry specifically to Black folks, but also to non-Black folks who view themselves as allies or accomplices in the struggle for Black freedom.
We ain't playing. This system of policing has got to go. You can't call on Mama Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and David Walker and all of these people and then say we gonna hold on to a remnant of the system that they gave their lives to abolish. Hell no. We are going to reimagine and build new systems of community safety.
And what's the future for Black Lives Matter after this election?
Well, Black Lives Matter has never primarily tied itself to electoral politics, right? We understand that the way that the world transforms is through both protest and politics. When you think that you move from protest to politics, that means that you're no longer a movement. And so the work that we've done in the streets is our primary work. So November 3rd is going to come and go. We hope to win major victories on November 3rd. Of course, we want to see this administration, this federal administration gone, but that's not our primary work. Our primary work is the work on the ground that will ultimately transform the world. Black Lives Matter is a movement. It's not a nonprofit organization in the traditional sense. You know, we're not run by executive directors and staff. We're run by regular people. I'm a regular mom and an educator. I do this work not as a job, but as a sacred duty, as a commitment to my children and a commitment to the world, a commitment to my ancestors and the Creator. And I think all of us, the thousands of us that make up Black Lives Matter, view it the same way.
Those demonstrations have brought us the greatest diversity of people walking and marching, also the greatest diversity of issues. I name only one issue, the issue of what kind of law, stability, and encouragement do you develop in a democracy? To date, the gun and violence is the central form or abuse of power. But how we can develop community policing that is fair and just and contributes to the advancement of communities being indeed just and fair.
Sometimes a photograph can capture the mood and the attention of the world. In June, one image did just that. During a protest on the streets of London, events turned violent. The Black Lives Matter group was there to condemn statues of people with racist ties, and many white protesters were there to protect the statues. Things got heated. One man, Bryn Male, a white former police officer, wandered into the crowd and he started to get beat up. One of the Black Lives Matter protesters, Patrick Hutchinson, saw that he was in peril. Patrick moved in, picked up the injured Bryn, carried him through the crowd to safety.
The biggest thing for me was making sure that no harm came to him, because I knew if harm had come to him, the narrative would just be changed, and then the blame would fall on the young Black Lives Matter protesters. We made sure we got him out of there safely.
Patrick, a father and grandfather, hopes that everyone who sees the image understands that the responsibility to do the right thing resides in all of us.
We just want equality for all races, for all people. But right now we're the ones who seem to be the oppressed ones, and it's about time things were changed, you know, the world over.
Search for solutions amid the chaos across the country.
The Congressional Black Caucus is vowing to crack down on police brutality. Earlier, I spoke with California Congressmember Karen Bass, who calls this a moral moment for America. What can you tell us about legislative solutions being proposed right now by the Congressional Black Caucus?
We are developing a legislative package, and at the center of the package is really passing legislation that allows communities to hold police accountable. So, for example, the police officer that murdered George Floyd, he was fired. Now, if he wasn't arrested, all he had to do was move a few miles away and he could continue to work as a police officer, even though he had numerous complaints against him and had been involved in officer-involved shootings. I think we're at an incredible moment of inflection within our country. This is a moral moment, and I think that the outrage that has been sadly displayed around our country might raise the level of concern to the point where people will be willing to vote for legislation. I think we're in a different moment. What I hope is that we have begun healing in our communities and in our nation. And if it's not the president that can lead our nation, I certainly hope that other leaders, members of Congress, myself, and other people are able to fill in the leadership void that we feel now and promote peace, promote unity, and promote solutions to the long-standing problem of police abuse.